information to you. Yeah.
For sure. Hey, there's also,
you couldn't see that in the theater. Like you can't go back and rewind in the theater. You'd leave not exactly knowing.
That's true.
there was a scene toward the beginning when it was we were talking about dialogue and the storytelling of how Quentin Tarantino does it, that I thought was really good, when Steve Buscemi and Harvey Keitel are kind of in that back room and they're talking about what went on. And I thought it was a really good way of giving us a picture of what went on without ever seeing anything, but they described everything so well. And it wasn't like they were spoon feeding us. It was like they were having a discussion and we're like, oh, okay, that's what went on. That's what went on. I thought that's something that Quentin Tarantino, I think, does very well.
I was convinced rewatching it this time that there was a scene where we see the robbery and we don't. It's just so well told.
It's a perfect example of how to do exposition, and also how to, by not showing us the actual heist, leaves your audience on the edge of their seats trying to figure out what happened. It already builds this tension and interest for your audience where you have to work and stay engaged to the movie to find out what happened. It's so brilliant.
Right.
I felt like, oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was gonna say it's different. Like when we talked about Red Heat, when they go in and they're like, it sounds like they're reading dialogue from a script sheet of what went on, and this whole thing happened. He achieves that without any of that cheesiness. It's like you actually feel like you're there, and it's written so well and it's acted so well that you're like, oh, they're having a conversation, and now I know what's going on, even though I wasn't there.
And I think he probably wrote for those actors specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff that I read during just trying to find out some tidbits and gossip and trivia on this movie. And what is it? Michael Madsen says that Kirk Baltz asked him to ride in his trunk to experience what it would really be like to ride in the trunk. But then when Madsen agreed to do that, he also decided that he wanted to explore his character more, so that he decided that he was going to drive down long alleyways full of potholes and drive through a Taco Bell and do all this bullshit before he let him out of the trunk, just to feel like what it would be like to be a mean SOB.
That's awesome.
So speaking of trivia, I saw something, I read this about Madonna saying that she told Quentin, or she signed an album, erotica, to him, and she said to Quentin, it's not about dick, it's about love, Madonna.
I'm glad we have confirmation, because as he was telling the story, I was like, damn it, he makes a good point.
Oh, totally.
Makes sense.
Should be open to interpretation as well.
That's true too.
But did you know Lawrence Tierney was on the day of the shoot, was arrested for allegedly pulling a gun on his nephew, Michael Tierney. So according to Quentin, he had to be taken away from his bail arrangement to shoot the movie. So there's a lot of BDE going on the set here.
Well, Lawrence Tierney was a guest on a Seinfeld episode, and they said he was crazy. He seems like one of those old school actors who's legit, a manly man.